Hello, everyone. This is Nidhi from Designhill, your host for today. Welcome again to this wonderful keynote session with Katherine today, where we will discuss and know what it takes to create purposeful and authentic brands. But before that, I hope everyone is keeping well and safe. I hope you are taking care of yourselves, your near and dear ones, taking all the precautions, and taking care of everyone in your vicinity. That's the need of the hour. So today's event is brought to you by Designhill, world's leading creative marketplace that caters to the creative needs of businesses and individuals alike, who can source high quality designs from professional designers and buy unique products created by independent artists. So, moving ahead, let me introduce our guest for today. We have with us Katherine S. O'Donnell. Katherine is a senior leader in marketing and communication strategy. She helps companies develop clear and tailored programs that are data driven and powerful. With 15 years of hands on experience in reputation management, media relations, and brand positioning, she brings a comprehensive and diverse palette of skill sets backed by a cultural intelligence that embraces innovation in the global marketplace. She believes uh, connectivity, agility, and quality is important for companies to be successful. And a communication strategy must have all three of these. As technology continues to dramatically change the field of public relations, businesses need to listen and engage with customers to not only survive but thrive. She looks forward to continuing to provide an exciting and distinguishable twist and story to the products and services that she markets and brands. Catherine, we have done an event with you before as well. It was so lovely having you then. It is so lovely having you here today again. Please say
Thank you
hi to
so
the
much.
audiences. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Nidhi.
Amazing. So, guys, before we start the session, there are a couple of announcements. First one being that we are giving away certificates as usual for this event. So, if you want to have a certificate for this event, you need to stick till the end in this session. Another thing is that you can always take a screenshot of this event and tweet about it. Please use hashtag Designhill events and tag Designhill DH. The Twitter handle will be in the chat, and one lucky winner will have a chance to win a print shop gift card worth $50. Along with that, you always join us, with such humility as a gesture of appreciation that you could join us for this event today as well. We will be sharing an exclusive coupon code with you using which you can get 15% off on print shop by Design Hill and buy the merchandise of your choice. So stay tuned. And before we start the session, let's quickly look at what Design Hill is all about.
Need to get your parents off your back? Head to the world's #1 creative marketplace, Designhill.
When I started my photography business, I needed something that said this was more than just a hobby. It's not a hobby, Mom. That's why I went to Designhill and got an amazing logo super fast at a price I could afford. The process was easy using Designhill's logo maker. Just enter the name of your business, then pick out a number of designs that inspire you. I'll pick this one and that one looks cute. Then pick your colors or let the system decide. Add some more info like a slogan, the industry your business is in, and your budget. The logo maker, using machine learning and artificial intelligence, will design thousands of logo variants that you can choose from and adapt. In fact, I was able to get everything from business cards to t-shirt design and complete social media kit, all with the click of a button. With that, I'm all set. Now everyone I meet knows I'm a legit photographer. Even my mom. It's real. That's decaf.
Let the world know it's real and build your brand with Designhill.
Nidhi, you're on mute. There you go.
My bad. I'm really sorry. So
That's
that
okay.
was all about Designhill, and we are set to start the session now. Catherine has very graciously made a very nice presentation for this for today, which I will be sharing in a while. But before that, guys, we will be taking up questions as usual during the session. So if you have any, please drop them in the questions tab on your screen. Now I will give me a second, and I will share the presentation here for Catherine to take over. Catherine, can you share? Can you see this presentation?
I can, yes.
All right. So over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Nadine. I really appreciate Designhill having me again, and it's wonderful to partner with you. And thank you so much, Nadine. I appreciate that intro. Good morning, everybody, and good afternoon, good evening. I can see that many of you are from all parts of the world. I see you've joined us from the UK, Albania, and Philippines, China, and in the United States. So welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me. So what we're going to be talking about today is what it takes to create purposeful and authentic brands. So, but before we get into this a little bit more, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself and about my company. And so, again, my name is Katherine O'Donnell, and I am the co-founder and CEO of OP Creative Communications. And what OP Creative Communications sees ourselves as is a bridge company. So on one side of the bridge, we consult with nonprofit organizations by helping them with their branding, communications, marketing, and fundraising efforts. And on the other side of the bridge of our company, we consult with high net worth individuals who are looking to target and streamline donations going to nonprofit organizations so that they can feel good about making a difference. So that's a little bit about me, and we'll just go to the next slide. So let's go back to some of the basics. I think that a lot of people know what brand is, and they know about branding, but they're two different things. So let's go back to the basics of what brand is. And I'll talk a little bit more about branding towards the end of the presentation. But for those people who are just listening to the audio, I'm going to read what brand is. And a brand is an identifying symbol, mark, logo, name, word, and or sentence that companies use to distinguish their product from others. A combination of one or more of those elements can be utilized to create a brand identity. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to be talking about ways that you can develop a brand. Apologies. Okay, so here are a few popular and identifiable brands that we all know by name. So, you know, they all contain information about the company, or for instance, Jordan. You know, everybody knows that Jordan, it means Michael Jordan, it means a sports type of logo. So here are just a few of the really identifiable brands that everybody knows, like McDonald's, everybody knows the double arches, to Coca-Cola. We all know that that they use the red and the white. So when you're coming up with your logo, it's really important to come up with a name that means something to you. So, and figure out how it's being perceived by others as well. So, for instance, you want to think about some negative connotations in different parts of the world. So if you're coming up with a name for yourself and your logo, then think about how it can be perceived, not just in where you live, but think big. Think about how it can be perceived internationally as well. And I can give you a brief example. Is I was traveling around the world, and I just happened to be standing in line at a grocery store, and I saw right in front of me a product named Barf, and I kid you not. And I was thinking, I'm not going to use this detergent to clean my items. And it literally was called Barf. So really think about these things, and just know that your name can affect others. So be cognizant of that. And then when you are putting together not just your name, but you're thinking about your logo, for instance, and you're coming up with your brand colors. Think about 1 to 3 different colors that mean something to you. You can always use the psychology color wheel to find colors that matter to you or that you think others will respond well to. But I would highly recommend that you don't come up with any more than 3 colors. Then it just becomes so incredibly overwhelming and people just don't want to see it. So as you can see on some of these logos, they just went with simple red and white, or they went with yellow and red and white. So they kept it very, very simple. But so when we talk about a logo, what is a logo and how is it different from an icon? And for instance, a logo is a symbol, name, and a trademark of a company. So logos are used by companies because they represent a concise image of the company. Now, what is a trademark? Because when you're putting together a logo, you want to keep in mind that you're going to want to trademark or possibly trademark your logo. So a trademark are words and phrases or symbols which represent the company or product, and they distinguish products or services of one company or organization from those its competitors may provide. So, and then other examples too might include acronyms like IBM, NBC. So those are all trademarks. So when you're coming up with your logo, make sure that it doesn't come anywhere close to other trademarked logos. And when you are coming up with your logo, just make sure that it's not anything close to, I think it's maybe 33%. It has to be far enough away from other types of logos or very similar looking from other trademarked organizations or companies and logos. So just keep that in mind when you are putting together your own logo. We're going to talk about some of the brand icons that we recognize. So I mentioned Jordan before. We all recognize somebody sports related, they're jumping, they've got a basketball in their hand. We all know that that's Jordan. Like for instance, the thumbs up for Facebook. We all know that insinuates like, and the double arches. We've also got Nike. We all know that that swoosh symbol is what everybody knows of Nike. They just see that symbol. So, you know, what differentiates between logos and icons is the icon brands often come from authority, and the logo's concept is based on the company's core image, values, goals, and even target audience. So unlike icons, logos are specific graphic representations that rely to the user when the brand is what the brand is all about. So when you are creating your logo, think about how you can drop the name off of your logo and it would still be identifiable. And definitely think these things through before you set up your logo, because it's a lot harder to go along for years, for instance, where you have associated your brand, people recognize you, and then you start making changes. So try and think about those things. You'll also need to create a tagline, something that you can incorporate with your logo or can kind of be separate, and you can have two different things. So you can have your logo and a tagline. But the tagline is what's going to be best representing your business, your service, or your organization. And if your logo doesn't quite share what your business does, this is an opportunity for your tagline to really highlight what it is that you're trying to accomplish with your brand or with your product and service. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so one thing that we talk about is establishing brand voice, and some of the ways that you can do that is you want to identify your audience and think about who they are. Are they going to be older? Are they going to be younger? Are they professional networking women who are 40 and above? You want to try and get specific with your audience. That's going to really help define the style that best represents the company. So let's talk about, for instance, an insurance company as an example. So what their brand voice is, they're reliable and trustworthy. And you want an insurance company who is going to be reliable and trustworthy in an emergency, right? So the other thing is too, like a beauty company, they sell facial products and they don't test on animals and they are environmentally responsible. And what they do is they communicate that on their package, in all of their marketing efforts, their advertising, and they show that they are conscientious of animals and the environment. So that is their style. And I have to say that this is something that can change over time. So don't think that you are just pigeonholed into having a brand voice, the exact same brand voice, because you need to tailor it as time goes on or as certain situations come up. So for instance, Chevy, the car company here in the United States, they're well known to have a tough brand. So they've got tough trucks, and they've always had this type of tagline that says Chevy runs deep. Well, what they've done is they've recently changed that and changed their brand voice to accommodate people coming out of the pandemic. They know that people are stuck inside and they want to get out. They want to experience something new, have new adventures. So they've come up with something new where they're calling themselves Find New Roads. That is their tagline. So it's gone from Chevy runs deep to Find New Roads. Now, then you're going to test your target audience. So one of the ways that you can test your target audience is, for instance, putting together a group on Facebook. And you can target exactly who you want to talk to. It could be a group of 18 to 65 adults, or it could be professional women and they're 35 and above. So you can really tailor that audience, and you can put out your product, you can put out your brand and get feedback from it. And be sure to listen to what they have to say, because they are going to be your consumer base. So if they're asking you to redirect, or you need to redirect, then keep that in mind, because they're the ones that are going to be using your services or purchasing from you. And then coming up with 3 to 4 descriptive words that help communicate with the customer base. Pay attention to what your customers really want. It could be like, for instance, women want a facial product, and way back when, what might have worked for them, say, using a facial product that helped them with blemishes. Well, times have changed now, and say they want a product that makes them look young and vibrant and glowing, for instance. So they also care about the environment, and they also care about whether or not you're testing on animals. So when you're putting your product together, you're coming up and using these descriptive words like radiant, glowing, young, that mean something to people and that meet their needs and where they're at, so that they'll be more willing to trust your company and product and be loyal to your brand, because it matters to them. It matters to the customer, and your company will be showing them that you care about them, and they'll be more willing to want to buy from you or use your services often. So you then want to figure out how to find your voice. And here are some ways that you can find your voice when you're putting together your brand. You want to establish your mission, vision, and values. So what you want to do is you want to find the aspects of your business that stand out from the rest. Don't copy other businesses, and just do your thing, and because you know that there is a need out there. So come up with your mission, vision, and values. That's going to be one of the first important steps in finding your voice. Then decide on your descriptor words that best define who you are, what you do, what kind of feelings your companies bring to people. So a few ideas and recommendations in how to find descriptor words that work for you is have branding sessions with your staff, for instance, or family members, friends, marketing people. Get input from your broad base, and then get a better sense of how they view you, and then add your viewpoints and see where there's an overlap. And then hone in on that overlap and build on what you now know, now that you have this wealth of information. So work with what you've got. And then think about the type of mood that you want your company to take on. This will help figure out your tone. So you're going to come up with 3 to 4 descriptors when you discover your tone. So what that means is, you know, let's use Tesla as an example. So they are affordable, but they show wealth. That's their brand. They are sleek and modern. They help out the environment because people can go hundreds of miles without recharging, or they don't use gas. So it's a worthwhile investment, especially if you care about the environment. So their tone is that they're smart, forward-thinking, and modern. So when you then go to understanding who you are talking to, your current audience and future customers, now that you have a tone, you want to make sure that it meshes with your audience. So you want to find out from your target audience what excites them about your company, products, or services. And you can test your tone by, say, doing progress updates. And for instance, if you come up with a new safety measure or safety feature on your vehicle, you're going to want to ask people what they think about it. You're going to want that focus group and find out if it's working for them. Does it excite them? And then it's not just about the excitement. It's also about, you want them to buy from you again. So you're creating something that they're excited about, but that they also really believe in, just like Tesla. So let's talk about some of the brands that we know and love. These are companies who utilize brand voice and tone in a great way. So for instance, Starbucks, we all recognize Starbucks, but they've never put coffee in their logo. It's really a company that is marketed to people who want to get food. They want to come for coffee, but they also want to sit down and chat with their friends. They want to sit and work, get out of the house and just relax. So they've put their tone out there and their voice to people that insinuates this. Then for instance, Apple, we all know Apple, and Apple's brand voice has always been very consistent. And what it does is it conveys confidence, quality, and intimacy. And they pride themselves on making everybody feel welcome. And I've heard that people sometimes feel spoiled by owning their products. So that's how they've conveyed their voice and tone. And LinkedIn, with more than 500 million users, LinkedIn is encouraging people to network and make connections. So their voice and tone is very inviting. It's welcoming to everybody. And then with Slack, in 2019, they changed their logo and they got a lot of flack for it. But what they did, which was really smart, was that they listened to their customers. And then they directed their communications to their customers and said, look, we hear you. We understand that you don't like change. And this is what we're doing to mitigate the issue, or that we are hearing you. So that, I think, is a great way to utilize your brand voice and tone. Okay. So what are the demographics and for current and future customers? So one of the things that you want to do is you want to figure out who is your reach. So are they kids from, say, age 6 to 12? Are they adults 18 to 65? Are they older people? Who are those people that you want to reach? What demographics are they? And then figure out what their pain point is and what your customers need and want. So does the product service only speak to younger or older people? But keep in mind that customers don't always buy because of what's being offered. People buy because of something that they need. So when you're putting together your brand product, think about what they need and then advertise that they need it, right? So a need is always introduced as a way of improving lives. And let's take 5G, for example. And for many of you that don't know 5G, it's fifth generation mobile network. So 5G enables a new kind of network that is designed to connect everyone virtually and everything together that includes machines, objects, and devices. And the question is, do we all really need 5G? Well, the way technology is going, it's something that people need to be able to work more productively. And the demands are high. So we're always feeling that pressure to, we could be on the top of a mountain and we need to respond back for work. So we need to try and keep it up and be as productive as possible. So there's always this buzz that's been created about it. And it's something that might have taken years, for instance. But advertising has explained how it works and why it works. And then this is what's kept consistent to show customers that they're going to want 5G and that they're going to actually need 5G.
Right. Katherine, sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. So I think it's a good time to take a few questions, and I also have one question personally.
Sure.
Would you be up for that? And then we can, cover the latter part of the presentation in after the mid roll. How would be
Sure.
that?
Sounds great.
Okay. Uh, so, Catherine, I had this question because, I was going through the registrants list of the questions, and, you rightly pointed out the importance of intimacy that a brand creates with their customers, with their followers, with their fans. But I wanted to understand that, is creating an emotional attachment or the connect, so to say, um, is something that every brand should try and achieve. Is it for every brand to create that emotional attachment, or sometimes there are certain kind of brands who may not need that emotional attachment with their customers, and the services are really really straightforward, right? So how does a brand identify if they really need to build that emotional connect, or they should just do away with it? So how does a brand figure that out?
Yeah, I would definitely look at the types of products and services that you're offering. And, for instance, mine are just straightforward. They're consulting services.
Right.
Yes, I can incorporate an emotional factor, but I would consider that to be more of my personal brand that would be highlighting that emotional factor to connect with people. But I completely agree that there are certain brands and companies who do really emotionally connect with others, and they do need to keep that in mind when they're putting together their logo. We can talk about, like, for instance, having a dynamic logo. So if you're say Air Jordan, right, that's a very dynamic logo. It's something that is having somebody jump up into the air. Or there's McDonald's, which is very stationary because it's showing that you're going to get something that is reliable. It's going to be the exact same anywhere and everywhere you go around the world. I mean, I stood in line in Moscow just to get a hamburger at a McDonald's. And it was, very similar to what I've had here, just out of curiosity. I was interested in that. So yes, I fully agree that there are times where you do have that emotional factor that you want to take into account.
Right. Thank you so much for answering that. Also, in the starting, you talked about how an organization should take care of the descriptors, the language, the mission values. Um,
Right.
but as a brand establishes itself, and they make a mark, how long should brand logos last, and how often should they evolve? What is your take on that?
Yeah, so I would say that, when coming from a PR perspective too,
Right.
is something that you want to keep in mind is set up a logo that you are comfortable with having for a long period of time. So yes, you can make changes to it, but just know that when you do put it out there, some people just don't like change and they're not going to be happy with that. So if you are coming up with change, maybe make it small and incremental over time, or wait quite a while and then make changes. Like Starbucks, right? They had their product or their brand and their logo for quite some time, and then they dropped the Starbucks and they just had that mermaid looking icon. So that is something that you can do, but I wouldn't recommend doing it right away from when you've launched the product and people are already starting to get to see you and get to know you.
Obviously. So there is this brand which, eventually added a lot to their logo in terms of color schemes and, in terms of adding a tagline. When they started in few more verticals, the same organization forayed into different verticals of businesses, is when, they added a few, they changed the logo and the messaging tone a bit, because they were foraying into a different business altogether. So
Mhm.
that's something that I had taken a note of. So let's take a few questions from the questions tab. We only have two. Guys, please put up your questions. I'm sure you have a lot. So taking this question from Mario. How do you know that customers are actually understanding the purpose of the brand, and how to be considered a brand on purpose for an audience? So basically, Mario is talking about how do you realize and how do you count that recognition that a customer may be noticing over a period of time.
Right, and that's a really great question. So I would say you could really look at that and assess whether or not, for instance, if you are selling a product, are your sales going well? If they're not going well, then maybe try and tailor to an audience and just ask them what their feedback is. And for instance, putting together a Facebook group and doing kind of your own focus group on it. But I think one of the important things is when you are putting something out there to people right at the 3rd to 5th grade level, and I know it sounds really ridiculous, but you don't know where they're at and how they understand something. So in a way, by writing at a 3rd to 5th grade level, you are helping to educate them in a simple way about what your product is, about what you're trying to accomplish, and what it's going to ultimately do for the consumer.
Right.
So those would be definitely my tips.
Great. Amazing, Catherine. The session is going really well. We have almost 80 people live with us. It's a really good footfall. And now with that, it's the time for a mid-roll as well. So I hope you guys are enjoying the session. Before we move forward, I would like to give a quick shout out to Designhill, world's leading creative marketplace, for organizing this event. Let's take a quick short break and keep this interesting session going on.
Claremax is a full-service video agency based around video production. We created a brand that fit our identity at the time, but as we've evolved as a company, we found that original brand didn't quite fit our aspirations anymore. Finding a partner to rebrand your entire company takes a lot of time and effort. Finding Designhill was an incredible lifeline. Designhill offers a money-back guarantee. If we don't like any of the designs, we get all of our money back. The stuff that we ended up with were well beyond what we had been seeing on other creative services platforms. After creating a simple design brief by answering some questions created by Designhill, we posted, and within a few days, we had over 250 entries. Designhill's platform made it easy to communicate with all the potential designers. Eventually, we picked a winner. In addition to a logo, our designer also created a letterhead, business cards, and banners for all of our social media platforms. With Designhill's help, we now have a brand that meets our aspirations. We're ready for the future and everything that it's here to bring.
All right. With that, we'll jump back to the presentation. I will have to share it again because it seemed to have gone. 1 second. Just give me one quick second. And you were on slide 9. Over to you, Catherine, once again. You are on mute. Can you please unmute yourself? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. So, when you're coming up with the demographics, and I know I just went over this, but figure out what your pain point is and what your customers need or want. So does the product that you have or the service that you're offering only speak to younger and older people, for instance? So you just want to be very careful of that. So now let's go into the next slide. And what do people want from your brand? So is your product or service going to help them? That's ultimately what people want to know. And will it make them better if they use your brand? And does it have purpose? So let's use, for instance, a lipstick product as an example. It's something that might last all day long, and you could look radiant on your Zoom calls, right? And during the pandemic, so many people are on Zoom. But what about when the pandemic ends and you are able to start seeing people again? You're able to see your colleagues, you're meeting prospective clients and or customers. So what's that going to look like? Is that lipstick going to work for you? Is it going to be when you're taking your mask on, you're putting it, you're taking it on and off? Is it still going to work for you? And think about when you're coming up with all of this, if, for instance, you really are able to provide that purpose and something that people need. So consider a lot of variables when you're trying to decide in your product and in your brand, and will it actually serve as a purpose? And is, oh, sorry. The other thing is think about, is your brand authentic, and will people trust your brand and want to continue to buy from you or use your services? And that leads right into what makes your brand authentic. Customers will only trust your brand if you are consistent and authentic. So you are you and no one else. And what this means is that the way that you communicate your personal brand values through your product, and if you make any changes to your product or introduce a new product, make sure that you are just being consistent in your values. And don't sound like another brand. Just be you and stand out from the rest of the crowd is what I would highly recommend. There's so much competition out there. Just know that you're being true to yourself and to your company and your brand when you are putting it together. You're just being yourself and you're wanting to be authentic as well. So when you've put together all of this, make sure that you include your voice, your tone, and descriptors into a branding guide. And I can't stress this enough, because if you've put up all of the hard work into figuring out exactly your tone and your voice and what your 3 to 4 descriptors are, write it down, put it into a branding guide. Then you can also choose your fonts, and like I mentioned, the 1 to 3 colors that you're going to be coming up with, that the Pantone colors, so that they're always going to be exactly the same, for instance, and a tagline and where you want that tagline to be placed. So it could be at the bottom of your marketing materials every single time you put out there, or your logo is going to be placed up at the left-hand corner. So you want that consistency, and you want to be very constant when you're putting it out there. But this is not just for yourself. It's also to be able to share it with staff. So when your staff is, say, in charge of doing social media, they've got that guide and they know exactly how to position your brand so that people will recognize it and they'll understand it. And you've got everything that you need all in that branding guide. And as we talked about, you can change things over time and just update that branding guide. And this is not just for businesses. It's really important for nonprofit organizations as well. So if any of you are joining and you are a part of a nonprofit organization, then putting together this branding guide is just as important. And you might have to put more emphasis on your mission statement and your summary of goals and objectives, but you need to have these 3 and really hone in on what those 3 are, so that you can start building your brand as a nonprofit organization. So what is branding? And branding is different because it is different than your brand that you come up with, such as your logo, symbol, name, tagline, your fonts. And branding is the process of creating a strong positive perception of your company, and it's in your customers' minds. So, branding is where you've incorporated the entire package. And if your branding works and it's successful, then your package has been delivered, right? So how will your brand be communicated? And there are multiple platforms that your brand can be communicated, such as advertising, social media, marketing. It's going to be in signage. It's going to be word of mouth as well. So that's why your voice and tone is going to be really important. It's going to be at events, in collateral materials. It's going to be digital, social, social media. They're going to be putting it out there, and you're going to want that your tone and your voice, all of that is very consistent in what you're putting out there. So make sure that you are constant in your delivery. Now, we know that social media, you're going to have to tailor your tone a little bit with different types of platforms with social media. So, maybe your voice is a little different when you are putting your message out to Facebook, or your message is going to be more directed towards a professional voice and tone when you're putting it out there on LinkedIn, for instance. Twitter, you've only got a certain number of characters, so you've got to make them count. So, you're going to be putting it out there just very succinctly. So just whatever platform that you do use, if you say you only want to focus on one platform, then do it, and just be constant in the way that you do it and be consistent in how you do it, and people will notice. So just a quick summary of what I've talked about in what it takes to create purposeful and authentic brands. So you want to create a long-term brand. So think strategically, plan ahead, and really take into account all of your various factors. Establish your brand voice by identifying your audience, defining the style that best represents the company, test the target audience, and this is where you're going to listen to them and you'll redirect as needed based on their feedback. You'll have 3 to 4 descriptive words that help communicate the customer base, and this is where you'll build that loyalty and that trust with your customers. And to find your voice, you want to establish your mission, vision, and values, and decide on your 3 to 4 descriptor words. Decide on the mood of your company that you want to take on. And to develop your tone, you want those 3 to 4 descriptors. So those are really important to hone in on, and understand your audience, what excites them about your company, your brand, your service, and always take into account what your demographics are. Figure out who you want to reach, and your customers, what they want, what they need, and speak to those. And definitely, does your brand have purpose? So, really think about when you're putting this together that you do have purpose, and that you are helping people. And is your brand authentic? And come up with that branding guide at the very end when you've come up with everything else, so that is a testament to all of the work that you've put together, and you can keep that together for future use or other staff members that are using it. And you're going to be putting it out there on a consistent basis and constantly putting it out there, because people need to see it at least 7 times before they're like, oh, I associate that brand with what they're talking about. So you just have to be very constant about it. And then communicate your brand through multiple platforms. So I know that I put a lot of ideas out there for you, and that's one of the reasons why I'm in the business of helping people with their branding, marketing, communications efforts. So I'm always here for consulting sessions if you need anything. And I think that Designhill has provided you with my contact information as well. And I really appreciate this opportunity to bring you information about brands, And I wish you all great success as you are looking to come up with your logo and brand and find your voice and find your tone and start making great headway for yourself. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. But this is not where it is ending. We have some questions to be taken up. But
Sure.
before that, yes, before that, people asking if they will get this presentation. For sure, you will get it in your email boxes once the session is over. So you need not worry. People with troublesome internet connections, people who joined us late, you can always see this in the replay after the session gets over. You will get it in your email boxes. Another thing, like Catherine said, you can always get in touch with her in on her LinkedIn page. We have shared her LinkedIn profile in the chat box, and Robin, my colleague, will share it once again for everyone's perusal. So now let's take a few questions. In fact, all of them, because we don't have many. But guys, please put in your questions. We have some time for this event. So let's take this question. Catherine, this will be on your screen. Do you recommend using archetypes for branding tone definitions? Any reading would you would recommend to obtain more insights on it?
So I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? It kind of cut out a little bit.
All right. Can you see this question on your screen? Is it popping up?
No, it's not.
Okay. Let me recite it once again for you. Do you recommend using archetypes for branding tone definitions? Any reading you would recommend to obtain more insights on it? I'm not sure about the word archetypes. Are you have you gotten the question?
Yes, I did get the question. So I would recommend that there are different types of things that you could do to read more about branding. There are websites that you can use to find out more information as you're setting up your brand, to logos, for instance. I would just do a quick search on like whatever specific that you're looking for, whether that is to create a logo, or how is it that you can create your own brand, for instance. There's a lot of information and great advice out there that you can utilize. And just I would say there's multiple websites that I've used before that I know could be really helpful to you as well.
Great, thank you so much. I hope that answers your question, Wagner. Next, we are taking up this question by Mark, and it should be on your screen as well, Catherine. Can you see?
I can't see. It's not showing up on my screen.
That's it's a little problematic then. Okay, I'll read it again. I'll read it for you. Hi, how about branding for educational institutions? The Mark is asking, industry specific question. Usually there is competition for recruiting international students. How can we intensify our branding without overstepping or commodifying education? I mean, that's a really nice question.
Yeah, so there's so much that you can do now, especially with social media, in terms of reaching different types of audiences. So when you're putting out there your voice and your tone, you're really going to be very direct on inviting people to come into a program, for instance. It's what the benefits are going to be towards them, and what value that they're going to get from using that type of service, or going to that type of school, or being incorporated with that program. So you can really highlight how it's going to positively affect them, and your tone is going to be very welcoming. It's going to be inviting, and because that's what people want to see, and that's what they want to hear.
Absolutely agree with that. Next one is a question by Nicole. I find that local small town real estate company I'm working with is having a hard time getting attention via social media marketing. I post content consistently that aligns with their brand voice. Does it just take time to gain brand loyalty following, or do I need to reevaluate our approach?
Mm-hmm. That's a really great question. I would say before you reevaluate your approach, yes, putting information out there consistently is helpful. However, you're also competing with millions of other people that are putting it out there on social media. So one of the things that you can do before you reevaluate is do a boost. So if you're, for instance, using Facebook, Nicole, one of the things that you can do is you can target who it is that you're trying to reach. So if you live in a specific city, you can do an advertisement that you're only focusing on that area where you provide services, and just boost it for $5-10 and see what kind of response that you get, and always kind of have a call to action. So if you're, say, in real estate, if you're putting out that advertisement for you have an open home that you're going to be showing at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, come join us today at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or we look forward to seeing you today. Make sure that you have that call to action, but boost it before you do anything else and see what kind of responses that you get.
Great. Jumping straight away to the next question by Kurt. What is the best way to get feedback from customers on my branding? Just straight up ask them?
Absolutely. You know, everybody loves to give their opinion on everything. So it's also a really great opportunity to make your customer feel like you care about what they have to say. You value their opinion. So most definitely, you know, and the way that you can always position it is, you know, we want to hear from you because we want to bring you the best brand possible, or the best product possible. And people really respond to that. I mean, how often are you asked for your feedback on something? And I think in a way it helps you stand out from the rest of the crowd, because you're showing straight away that you care about your customer base and that you value their opinions.
Absolutely. Okay, the next question is by Jefferson. Which computer software would you recommend us to use to illustrate or get the best graphics of branding?
Well, Designhill, of course.
I was about to say that as well.
I think it really depends on what you're looking to do, because, you know, if you're looking to create a website, well, maybe WordPress isn't for you, for instance, but maybe another platform is going to be more user-friendly for you that works, right? Or if you're putting together a logo, right, Designhill offers that. If you also want to do it, you can do it simply, say, if you want to just put together a banner for LinkedIn, you could do that on Canva. You know, there are so many different platforms, and it's really hard for me to say that there's only one specific one, because you have to find what works for you.
Absolutely, and I would personally want to pitch in here, guys. Please go visit the Logo Maker tool by Designhill, and you can, make really nice logos, which actually conveys the identity of your brand really well. So please go out there and try for yourself. Along with that, Catherine also mentioned using Canva. I'm sure that everyone knows that Designhill also has an active design tool called Designhill Studio, where you can actually go and make designs for yourselves, be it LinkedIn banners, be it Instagram post, stories, Facebook post, ads, everything on the go. So please go and check that out. A lot of your problems will be resolved, especially for the startups who wouldn't have a lot of money on their in their hands.
Right.
Amazing. So moving on to the next question, and the questions are only increasing. Okay. Hi, ma'am. Ishani says, hi, ma'am. How do we know how to use the perfect elements for the identity of a brand for it to be recognized and not just because you like it?
That's a really great question. You know, I think that you have to have a starting out point, right? So one of the things I talked about in the very beginning of the presentation is you have to come up with those descriptive words, the identifiers that you care about, and that is your starting point. then you can really position it by putting it out there to your friends, your family members. Just put together a Facebook group and ask them what they think and what their feedback is. And then that kind of helps to tailor which direction you should go. And it gives you a direction, because I think it can be very daunting when you're putting it together. I mean, I felt the same way when I put my own company information out there. But, you know, for instance, I came up with 2 colors of blues because blues are a color that matters to me. You know, people resonate with it. It's calming. So I started out with just those 2 colors, right? And then you just continue to keep going, and then you ask for people's feedback.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, let me see how many more questions do we. Snehalata is asking how to ask my audience right questions during brand strategy. I guess she's saying while promoting the brand on Facebook or any other social media channel, how to ask the right questions so a brand, an organization knows that they're on the right track.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's just like what I mentioned before, it's really about that starting out point. So one of the things you could do is you can put it out there in your focus group and say, what do you think about this brand? What does this brand make you feel when you see it? You know, using those descriptive words, letting them give you that feedback that you can then run with is definitely a way to start.
All right, great. So Alejandra is asking, what if the client has the wrong idea about who their target customer is? And I think that's the mistake that most organizations make to start with. And as a designer, how can I better determine who is the actual target or client for my brand so I can design accordingly?
Yeah, well, that's where you also look to who your demographics are. So is your brand really trying to target your product, for instance? Are they looking for, is it going to be helping older people or younger people? So when you are putting it out there, it's helpful to know who is your target audience. What are the demographics that you're trying to target? So keeping that in mind will really help you hone in on what it is that you are trying to accomplish and reach people more successfully.
Right. So on the questions tab, we are done. But I have this question, Catherine. You have been in the business for so long. What are the common mistakes you have seen brands doing when they set out to, make a brand strategy, implement it, and they still don't get the results? Or even if they get results, they may get a lot of engagement or followers, but it may not be doing the justice to their, like you said, the brand's mission or values. So what are the common mistakes that you have seen brand managers do?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I would say that a big part of it is really not being consistent. It's not being constant with what you're putting out there. So when you are putting together your brand, a lot of times people will just say, put together a logo with so many colors because they love colors. Well, that's great. However, somebody might look at that and say, you know what, I can't look at that because it's just too overwhelming for me. So you can start out really simple. And I think that this is where people find it incredibly daunting, is they're like, I need to do X, Y, and Z to be able to build my brand. No, you just start out with one step and putting one foot in front of the other. So start out with, for instance, figuring out what colors that you like. That's one step. To then so maybe that might be like 1 or 3 colors, and it could be 2 primary colors and 1 secondary color, but there, you've started that, right? You're coming up with your name. That's another step. So I think that a lot of times when people put their brands out there, they haven't defined who they are. And so they're putting it out there, and they're in a way kind of mismessaging the audience, or it might not be the right audience that they're putting their information out there to. So, I think that a lot of the information that I shared today is a really good starting point for people who are looking to start their brand and to start building off of their brand, and the way to do it effectively.
Right, amazing, amazing. So, all right, did not realize that we have actually arrived at the end of the session. It was such an indulge, we got so much indulged. I mean, I really do not want the session to end, but we have to end this right now. And so this was indeed a value packed session, guys. I hope you guys loved this session. Once again, I would like to thank Katherine for taking out time to be a part of this event. Katherine, any last thoughts?
No, I think that, don't let anybody stand in your way. If you're looking to create your own brand, you are looking to create a logo, you want to do your tagline, you want to put your product together, you want to package it all together, you'll do great. And just get going. Just as Nike would say, just do it.
Just do it. Yes, absolutely. All right, guys, this is not where it ends. We have a lot more events lined up for you in the coming days. So if you guys are interested and haven't registered yet, my colleague Robin will be putting up the event section link in the chat, where you can find all of our upcoming events and register. To stay updated with events like these, you can follow us on our LinkedIn page. You can also give suggestions on the topics you would like us to cover and speakers you want us to host. We are also dropping the link of our LinkedIn page in the chat box again. To watch this session, other such wonderful sessions, subscribe to our event section on designhill.com/events, or visit our official YouTube channel, Designhill. You can find the link in the chat box again of the YouTube channel. For all the businesses owners who are listening to this and wish to source high quality graphic designs, please visit designhill.com. Also, guys, we have launched cool design challenges where designers can come and populate the library here with us at Designhill Studio. Please be a part of it. There are so many gifts, and you get to learn a lot. So please go visit Designhill Studio and designhill.com/studio/challenges. The link will be in the chat box again. Last but not the least, as we promised, please use code PSKD15 and get 15% off on print shop merchandise. This code is valid till 5th April 2021. My colleague Robin will put it out on in the chat box for your convenience. And on that note, I would like to say bye to everyone who joined us here today. Take care, guys, and stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye, Katherine.
Thank you so much, Nidhi. Bye.
Bye.
Looking to get your boss to remember your name? Head to the world's #1 creative marketplace, Designhill.
When my company promoted me to head up our latest real estate development project, I was excited, then anxious, then petrified. How was I going to hire the team, get the designs completed, and design beautiful presentation materials on our lean budget while impressing my bosses, some of whom are still learning my name?
Good job, Mitch.
My name's Lawrence. That's why I went to Designhill and got the design help I needed that fit within my company's brand guidelines. The process was simple. Designhill's design contest ensured I'd get a ton